Hello, Internet, and welcome to Only Lovers Book Club, where I get together with my shifter clan of misfits and we read a romance and we talk about it. First of all, happy Pride. First of all, happy anniversary to us. So, today, or this hangout, marks an unofficial 6 years of us getting together and talking about books, and it's been great. And we all got each other really cool gifts, which I think are on various Instagrams. Drea got us this like super cute and sexy mug. Tosh got us these like personalized, like satiny bathrobes, and I got you guys your summer loungewear, which is very soft, silky summer loungewear. So anyway, here's to 6 more years and beyond of book club because I love doing this with you guys. But anyway, no more mushy stuff. If you're watching, then you already see that at least Drea and Tosh are in their shifter forms already.
I'm like partially shifted.
Yeah, she's like a partially shifted bear, werebear.
If you can see us, I got one of my favorite shirts. It's got a bear and it says, "I'm sorry for what I said when I was hungry." And then I got my little bear ears and my little bear nose.
Beautiful. The cutest werebear, the cutest bear shifter in the land of Nordara.
The BX.
Yeah. And then Tosh is in like she-wolf contour. It looks so good. My favorite part is the eyebrows.
So good.
It's so good.
Thanks. I went in with some eyeshadow and with my eyebrow pencil, and then I just like gave it texture.
Perfect.
Just call me Shakira.
That's why when you came into the chat, the hangout, that's why I howled at you. Although I wasn't sure. I'm like, okay, is she's either a bear or a wolf or something?
I feel like
I'm shifting back, and I'm ready for my drink.
I look like the bear shifter in like a cute graphic novel, and Tashai 100% looks like the wolf shifter in an erotic romance novel.
Yes, and
very different vibes going on here.
Yes, and I'm like, so one of the characters in the book is an angel, so I had my sister go and get me some wings from the costume store. And so they're like these like colorful little tiny fairy wings that you can't see from the front, but I'm wearing my like, be gay, do crimes shirt. I've got my pride nails.
They look so good.
So that's what I'm bringing to the table. A+. I
know, that's what I was asking her before you got on, Tasha. I was like, when are you going to do your post on Instagram with like your nails? And
they're so good. Like, I'm about to find someone to do my nails because every other post I see, you're like,
yes.
How I hold my cans. And I'm just like crying over here.
We've been talking about shifters and angels and bears and wolves. Why? Because this month we read Aurora's Angel by Emily Noon. It was my month, and I really wanted to read a queer fantasy romance, and this is exactly what that was. I picked it because it won. I saw it in the lineup for last year's Lambda Literary Awards, which is an award that's given to LGBTQ literature, poetry, etc. And I was like, Aurora's Angel, and it's got such a bitchin' cover. So I wanted to check it out, and we did together. And I'm happy to say we all enjoyed it. So let me read to you a little bit about Emily Noon this is from her bio on her website, emilynoonbooks.com. Says, Emily Noon always liked reading fantasies with a dark twist. And if there was a romance between strong main characters to sweeten the deal, even better. So we have that in common. After years of working in libraries while in secret creating magical worlds and lightly torturing her characters before giving them a happy ending, she decided to let them loose on the unsuspecting world. Aurora's Angel is her debut novel, but won't be her last. It can't be now since she's let this out to people. Wait, it can't be now should be a comma there, or that, or a preposition or something. It can't be now. She's let this lot out. Other people running around in her head are demanding to have their stories told as well. I don't know about that last sentence, but that's basically it. She can't stop now because she's got too many stories to tell, and I'm happy for that. Tosh, do you mind reading us what Aurora's Angel is about? And then because it won the Lammy, I pulled up her acceptance video, so I'll put that clip on, and then we can talk about like how we felt about the book.
I guess I don't mind. Just always grumpy. Werewolves are always grumpy. All right, Aurora's Angel by Emily Noon. A broken winged angel trying to get home. Her escort, a nocturnal huntress with a bloody past. It'll be a dangerous journey. Monsters are everywhere, and the truly dangerous ones hide in plain sight. Alone since her father's brutal murder, Aurora has spent years hunting his killers. Sorry, I don't have my glasses on. Battle-weary, she's ready to start over where no one knows who or what she is. She just has one last mission. Everything is going to plan until she discovers the beautiful winged girl, caged underground. Her decision to rescue Evie and to help her get home safely, despite avians being infamous for selling out shapeshifters like Aurora to cutters and black market flesh dealers, will put her on a perilous path. As the women travel together, their attraction grows, but Aurora is guarding her lonely heart almost as much as her dangerous secrets, and Evie is struggling to accept how important Aurora has become to her. When their enemies conspire to kill them, they may be each other's only hope. Aurora is powerful, but she's also emotionally scarred, and it'll be up to Evie to save her from herself and to fight for them. Or innocent people will die along with the guilty ones, and Aurora will disappear from Evie's life forever. Genre fantasy romance, 228,000 words.
Yeah, that book was long, but that's what I read. I definitely read that and some.
I read that book, and it took me a while.
I know.
That is a long book.
Let me play for you guys the acceptance speech.
Hello, I'm Emily Noon, and I'm honored to be the recipient of this prestigious Lambda Award for Aurora's Angel. While I was writing my debut novel, I was inspired by a quote that said to write every book as if it was my last. So I held nothing back and wrote the kind of story that I longed to read, hoping that it would resonate with readers who enjoy similar stories. Winning this award is more than I ever expected, and it truly means the world to me. Thank you.
Oh, so sweet.
That is not what I expected her to look like, sound like, present as.
She's so cute. Her voice is so sweet.
So let's dig in. This is the part where we kind of like, I tell you guys why I picked it, I think, and overall impression. So I can go first, and then you guys can give me your overall thoughts. So you already know I was kind of like in the mood for, I don't know why. It's really hard for me particularly to find like fantasy or romance that like really intrigues me to the point that I'll pick it up and read it. It's just one of those like super hit or miss romance subgenres. So I felt like this was kind of like a refresher for me. And like I said, I was glad I picked it. So overall, I really enjoyed the story. The whole time I was reading it, I was picturing Xena, warrior princess, like that kind of world, and that relationship between like the really tough, grumpy one and like the chatty, blonde, naive, cute one or whatever. And even though in the show it's not like that, like Xena and Gabrielle like love each other, and I mean I don't know if it's canon, but I like seeing them kind of like in this kind of like alternate universe almost come together. I did feel that it was a bit overlong in certain parts, and I do think that the dialogue was a little bit chunky and unnatural. But that being said, I binge read this. Like I know Tashai started reading it, and then I started reading it, and I finished it, and then Tashai was like still reading it, and it was just a really intriguing read. I was very here for the romance. I was very here for the action. And yeah, it was just a quick read. And I want to have wings so bad. I want to have wings, or at least a winged girlfriend or a dragon winged girlfriend. That's it. The end. We can talk more about it later, but I really enjoyed it, despite some of the flaws, and maybe some other stuff that we'll talk about. So, what did you guys think?
I can go. So I ended up definitely liking this book a lot more than I thought I was gonna like it. Not because I'm not into sci-fi, but because I just don't think I've ever read sci-fi romance like purposefully. Like I like Afrofuturistic writing, and I like I think usually the sci-fi I read just has more to do with like morals and ethics and like people and do we deserve to be here and the robots are right. So when it comes to this kind of sci-fi, it was like I wasn't sure where I was going to fall in the range of it. And like fantasy, like with fantasy too, sci-fi is there's like certain levels of fantasy that I just expect to be more like an adventure story, or I don't necessarily just like associate these genres with like what the romance that we read. And so I didn't want to get my hopes up that I would have like a really solid story and a really solid romance, because it doesn't feel like you often get a combination of both. Like either the romance really good but the story lacks in what it's trying to do, or the story's really good but I don't buy the romance. So I was like, all right, let's see. And I ended up being like super happily surprised. It did take a bit to get into it, I think also because I was reading on my phone, and I think I've just got to get better at like figuring out how long a book is going to be and seeing if it's worth it to get it in a paperback versus on my phone, because it just makes it feel like it takes so much longer to read on my phone. So once I started reading on my laptop and I went to like the much bigger screen, I was like clicking through, and it was a lot easier to just get through it because I felt like I was making progress in it. I liked the characters a lot. I thought that Evie was like cute and like sassy enough. Like I thought they were gonna like infantilize her in a way, because she is this like cute, light, angel, fairy like creature. But she's like, I'm down to fuck. Like, what's going on here? Like, why aren't we doing it? And Aurora's like, no, like, I don't just fuck. I have feelings. And I'm like, wait a minute. I see what you did there. The one that's like the tough exterior one's the big old vagina softie. And the one that's got wings and like feathery like stuff is like, no, we can bang and be friends. This is fine. So I liked how they played their relationship. I like the development of intimacy to then like go into physical intimacy. I definitely thought they were going to do it a lot sooner. So the fact that it took so long for them to get to the physical part of the relationship, I wasn't mad at it, because by the time it did happen, it was like it was pretty steamy. Like I was pleasantly happy with like the sex once it started happening. And yeah, my biggest like commentary on it is really just that it felt like it was a really long book. Like it took me a while to get through it. And at one point I was like, wow, I feel like I've been reading this for a long time. Let's see. And I was like 40% of the way through the book. I'm like, how the hell, like what else is going to happen in this? Like what exactly is the end game of the adventure? Because it would focus on their relationship for a bit, and then it's like, wait, what are we working towards? Like, what are we doing? Are we still taking her back home? There's like some court intrigue happening. Like, when are we getting to these parts? But no, I think I gave this like 4 stars because I just really ended up satisfied with the experience as a whole, even though I thought it was a little long. Like, that's something that I don't think it requires any sort of reworking, which to me speaks well of the book. It really is just that some of it could have been trimmed, in my opinion, but I wouldn't change the story itself. And like, I'm really happy that I can say that and like be like, yeah, this was a good time. And yeah, I agree with Andrea. I was like, her ex-girlfriend's a dope bitch. Like, I didn't envision them quite like Xena and Gabrielle, because I definitely was picturing like Sailor Uranus, just like
Sailor
tough.
Uranus and Sailor Neptune, just that
Maybe, yeah, like, but switch the hair color so you have like a short dark pixie and then like long flowy hair. Like I don't know, so some switch of style. But yeah, I was like, I ship it. That's my review. Sorry.
Well, I really liked it too. And I think, I don't know, I went into this with like very, very low expectations because for weeks you had both been telling me, oh, it's so long. Like, we need to start this one early. It's going to take a while to get through it. And let's actually postpone book club. So there's like more time to read. And so I went into this thinking like, oh boy, this is going to be like Alien Sex Planet, but 4 times as long. Like that's what I was, don't make faces at me, Chris. That's what I was picturing in my head based on all of your comments. I actually it didn't feel long to me. Like it definitely took me a while to read, but I don't know. There's nothing that I would have necessarily like trimmed or anything to make it shorter. I like that it was a journey that had like very like mapped out stops. You know, it's like, okay, first we're going to go here. Okay, now we're going to go here. Now we're going to go here. And so it was like lots of little mini journeys until they kind of got to the end. And I like that. I definitely like their romance. I like that it wasn't like super high fantasy because I definitely do a lot better with like the low end of the spectrum. So this was like my kind of fantasy where it's like you've got shifters, you've got like magic things, but I don't have to learn like a ton of rules. There's not like pages upon pages of world building that like, I don't know. I have a hard time like sometimes picturing things and wrapping my head around things. So this was good for me. This is very doable for me. And yeah, I liked the sexy scenes. I liked their chemistry. Yeah, I mean, I gave it 4 stars too. I really enjoyed it. I enjoyed it a lot more than I thought I would, just based on, I don't know, in my head, I was like, oh boy, like this is going to be a bad one for me to read. Just like that's how I was like thinking about it in my head before I started. And it wasn't like, once I actually started reading, like I got through it pretty quickly, I think. But yeah, I liked it.
Well, that makes me very happy. I don't know, like, you know, like when you've got like book club presenter, like you're like scared, you're like, I don't like this book, I'm gonna hate this book. So I'm always happy when you guys enjoy it. Cool,
honestly,
cool.
the biggest
so, like,
the biggest eye roll for me probably was her weird little like eating preferences. Like, you can't get mad that someone squashes a bee because you're a vegetarian, but then you're going around just like throwing back fish like it's, I don't know. That's the only, that honestly, that was my biggest thing with the book. I was just like, what the, no, stop. You can't be like anti-hunting, but fish are okay. And like bees have feelings and have to be sung to, but like forget the fish who are just as like emotionally evolved, probably more emotionally evolved than a bee. Anyway, that was my only complaint.
That's funny. And I definitely read that and thought of you. And I was like, yeah, Evie's like more of a pescatarian, I want to say. I was like, I feel like vegetarian doesn't necessarily but
I could have
cover it.
Honestly, I was fine. I was like, okay, you're fine. You're a pescatarian, whatever. You're using the wrong word. That's fine. But it was really the bee thing that threw me off. That's where I drew the line. I was like, you cannot get mad at Aurora for smacking a bee.
Yeah.
No. But no, that was, I mean,
yeah.
I like the book. It made me laugh.
So speaking of fantasy and reading fantasy or whatever, dark fantasy. So it's funny that you mentioned like, oh, I didn't have to wrap my head around a lot of things, because while I enjoyed it, I did find that I had a little bit of a hard time figuring out, like, there were some parts that felt like very fantasy to me. That's why I originally said, Xena Warrior Princess, right? Because it feels like medieval almost. And then suddenly there's parts where there's like jeeps and, modern conveniences. And there were certain parts where I was like, wait a minute, hold on. Where are we? And I just I guess wanted your thoughts on like, what did you picture this world being? part of me was almost like, at first I thought that this was like post-apocalypse Earth. You know what I mean? I originally thought that this was a world where something terrible had happened or whatever. Magic was unleashed. People can shift. Da, da, da. But then at one point in the book, they do mention, oh, there's this other place called America. And I was like, what? What the fuck? Where are we?
I pictured it as like a parallel planet kind of situation, because they kept mentioning to go to all those places like America. You had to go through the portal. And at some point they said, like, we used to have access to all of like that place's technology, like the Jeeps or whatever, but then they closed the portals and now we don't have access to any of that. And that's why we have to use like crystals to power like the Jeeps that we do have or whatever. So I just pictured it as like a different planet that evolved with magic and stuff. And then they're like, ooh, hey, neighboring planet, we like your vehicles. Can we trade? Maybe like some magic for some Jeeps, you know? And then things went south and then they closed off, and then each planet kind of remained with whatever they had. That's how I was picturing it in my head.
That's actually helpful to know. I guess I also, I didn't go as far as like imagining a separate planet. I just felt like I was like cross-fading into like different settings where I'm like, wait a minute, where are we? It did feel like a desolate plain, and then suddenly it wasn't. And yeah, it was a little confusing to me, but you know, I thought it was its own kind of, I thought it was interesting. I'm interested in like kind of seeing more of the place and the setting, like when she writes more. But yeah, Tash, what were your thoughts?
I don't think I pictured it as another planet. I think I pictured it like going to Canada or like going to Australia, where like it's so like Australia is so isolated. They've had all these animals just evolve in a really specific way to Australia because it's like a bitch to get there. But you can like take a portal to get there. You just need like a passport. So like Canada. But so I was just picturing it as like crossing a border or crossing like through the portal to get there, because it's interesting that you can like, it seems like you can just kind of liberally go there if you pay the amount you need to pay to go, because it wasn't like Aurora was saying she had to be like sneaky about it. She just didn't want people to know she was going because they were going to go out there and try to find her, not because it was like illegal to do so. She just had to be more discreet about the fact that she's this like shifter badass, you know, not like she's going to stand out, this like 6'3" blonde amazing woman when she goes somewhere where people know this place exists.
I think I was just, maybe it's because I've been reading that like Murderbot series so much. I think that's kind of what I was picturing it, where it's like, it's not that big a deal to like hop from planet to planet. Like, it's, you know what I mean? So I saw it, yeah, kind of exactly like I guess I saw it in like a future world where like you could just hop from planet. I think it's the word portal. When people tell me portal, I imagine space. Like, yeah, and I don't know why, but that's kind of what I imagine. I'm like, oh well, of course you need a portal, you can cross the fucking galaxy, like.
Yeah.
I think that's where my mix-up, like where I cross signals, because I was very anticipating this to be just kind of like purely fantasy, like purely in the fantasy realm. And so when suddenly modern technology gets put in there, I'm like, oh, okay, there's a little sci-fi here too. Not to say that, for example, like in an urban fantasy, there is a mix because it's like clearly in modern setting. But yeah, it just kind of, I was just like, hold on, Jeeps.
Well, because I think when I read
and then like and running water and showers and stuff, and I was just like, wait, what?
Well, once they started describing it, then I started thinking it was more like, oh, maybe it's portals like in Highlander, or portals like in that other show that everyone watches with the Irish dude that they want to bang. Scottish. What's the show? The guy's name's Jamie. I forget what it is. Basically, you like travel through space and time with these portals. Yeah, okay, Outlander. So then I was like, oh, is it like an Outlander portal where like it's not in space, but you're going somewhere different? So like once I just kind of accepted the fact that there is magic and bathtubs. Like, okay.
showers.
And showers.
Bathtubs I get, but like the showers, I was just like, oh boy.
Bathtubs with like plumbing and different faucets and like attachments.
That's how I was thinking of it. Like, okay, there's a human planet and the humans brought all this shit with them, and then some of them stayed there to live, and then the portals closed, and you know.
Okay, cool. Well, thanks for talking that out with me, because there were parts where I was like, what? and it would just take me a little bit out of the story, but maybe, I don't know. All right, so I guess I would like to know what you guys thought of Evie and Aurora, their chemistry, and if you think that they fall, like even in this fantasy portal setting, if you think that they fall under the lesbians that move in together stereotype.
Wait, can I go first?
You can absolutely go first. I'll go last. I'll like round and go last after you.
Okay, so I legit did not realize that this book took place over 7 days until I was literally at the end of the book. So I did not think that they were going too fast because I thought that this journey had literally taken months. And I am still convinced that if I go back and count all the nights that they went to sleep, it's just not going to add up, because I swear they went to sleep way more times than like 6 times. I'm just convinced of this. So it's like, after I finished reading, I was like, oh, like, that's like really fast, like really quickly. But the thing is, in the book, I actually believed it because I thought it was taking place over longer. So maybe that just goes to show like how well the author wrote their relationship. I don't know, that it like seemed to me that months had passed. But honestly, I also can see things moving very quickly in that scenario, because, and obviously this does not compare in any way, shape, or form to like a cross-world journey where people are trying to kill you and stuff. But like when you go to summer camp, for example, you bond with people so fast in like a week. Like those people are your like you know what I mean? Your friends are your sisters, they're your brothers, your crushes are like your soulmates. Like, because you're in that camp experience where you're there like 24/7 with that person, and you're like outside and you're in a completely different thing. So I think too that has a lot to do with it. I think if they had known each other for a week, just like in town hanging out, it would have been very different than like, oh, we're running from people who are trying to kill us. We are providing for each other in terms of like security and food and like company. You know, they literally don't talk to like anybody else basically, except for when they show up at the little towns, you know, they're just by themselves. So I can see too how like things would progress faster. And I think in Aurora's defense, like her beasts definitely wanted to mate. So I feel like that comes into play too, you know, like it's not just like you and me being like, it's like she's got fucking like beasts inside her that lead to like claim this person. So I honestly had no problem with it. And I really like their chemistry. I really like them together. I think the only thing I had to get used to in my head when I was picturing them is, I think because of Evie's personality, I kept picturing her as this like tiny, dainty little thing, but she's actually like as tall as Aurora, and they like mentioned that several times. And yeah, and like big boobs and all these things. And every time I had to like readjust in my head, I'm like, okay, I know like the dynamics you are picturing are like big, strong, and like tiny, weak, but actually she's just tall, weak. But yeah, no, I really like them, and I 100% would absolutely have fallen in love with Aurora in a week. So I can't, you know what I mean? I can't judge. I would have been like trying to mate with her in a week too. So
I feel like Andre would have been like, what do you shift to? But also you were describing
like,
their
can I pet your fur again, please? Wait, can you give me a piggyback ride again? Okay, cool. Let's get married.
Lol. I got a notification about my Wi-Fi. It seems like it's okay. I was like, is this what they look like? But no. It's more like this.
Yes, exactly.
Ivan's little action figures. Wait, is it my turn to talk about the speed of the relationship? I had the same thing. I'm like, yeah, it's been like 3 weeks. They've been together for a while. Like, I definitely have counted a good amount of sleeping and bathing together, and then it's like, I've only known her for 4 days. Like, holy shit.
You feel like those little kindergarten students who like don't know what time is, so the parents are like, okay, 3 more sleeps and then we're going to the birthday party. I'm like, how many sleeps did I count? Like
but I definitely, it made sense to me when I thought it was like, it's been like 5 weeks, they're in the woods, like, this makes sense. It did certainly throw a bucket of cold water on me when I was like, oh my god, yeah, it's only been a handful of days. Granted, yeah, I guess Aurora's got 2 beasts on her back that are trying to mate, and like Evie smells really good, so from her perspective, like, sure, that makes sense to me. I did think it was funny because Evie went from like, I don't do girlfriends to like, I'm gonna fucking marry you so hard. And I don't know if it's because she kept getting fed really good food, because in that scenario then it's like, oh well, I mean, I guess that makes sense to me. Like, it sounds like she made she was like 1 step away from making like sashimi bowls in the woods and making like roasted ahi, like tuna stuff. Like, how are you making this stuff?
Aurora was giving me hardcore Sailor Jupiter vibes with the whole like, I can
Definitely
fight anyone.
Wife
and
material. Wife material. She's like cooking for you. She's fighting for you. Makoto-chan forever.
So, like, I wasn't mad at it. I thought their relationship was cute, but it is funny that once I realized how much time had gone, I'm like, this is probably the least realistic thing then. But is it? Because I feel like I know some people who've like got really fast relationships. So, like, I don't know. I 100% would have probably fallen for Aurora that quickly. I don't know that I would have fallen for Evie that quickly because she's not my type. She's just like
same
different energy levels, and I think it works, you know, for certain kinds of relationships. Like, I am not that energy level, so I couldn't be with someone in that way. But
we all know I like the intense, brooding, strong type.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter the gender. It doesn't matter the magic. I mean, I clearly have a personality type.
Indeed. And I mean, I get it. I liked Aurora too. It's funny though, because like my partner's definitely like golden retriever energy in the mornings. Very much like, hello!
Ivan is totally
like, get away from me!
Oh my god. Ivan is 100% Evie.
I 100%. Like, it's the running joke now where we'll like wake up on the weekend and I look over and he's just like, good morning. I'm just like, ah!
I could totally picture Ivan like wrapping his long wings to cocoon you too when you're like sad.
God, so romantic.
Meanwhile, I'm just sweating in this cocoon. God, but I thought it was cute. I liked their relationship. I liked how it progressed. I do think it's funny that it happened real fast, but I'm not saying that I know people like that in real life. So, you know.
I had a similar experience. I definitely felt that more. I also think because the middle part is quite substantial. So I felt like more time had passed. So many things happened. And I get exactly what you're saying about summer camp, Drea. I get that. It was almost like a relationship intensivo. You know what I mean? It was like so many things were happening. They needed to be there by a certain time. And so the emotions were just like sky high. And I guess both of them were kind of like primed to fall for each other. They were both like so attracted to each other. And I felt like they had really good chemistry. I will not be an Evie apologist, but I did... Like, I don't know if I'm ready for that kind of energy either. I mean, although I don't know. Well, I don't know. But I do like that where Aurora was like broody and like closed off, there were times when Evie was like, hey, like, talk to me, communicate with me. Or if like Evie fucked up and said something that made Aurora shut off, that she would be like, hey, I'm sorry that I said that. I realized that it made you upset. So I think that she was like really good and like diplomatic about their roles in the relationship. And And I thought that their chemistry was so freaking cute. I was living for when, like when you just described the wings, like cocooning. I was like, I freaking almost fainted when it happened in the book. I had to put my book to the side and I had to fan myself. I was like, ah! Because I wanted to be cocooned.
Wait, Tashai left.
Oh, yes, she did.
Oh, she's back.
She's back.
Sorry.
It's okay.
Okay, I'm here.
I wanted to be cocooned in the wings, but I also wanted to like run my hands through Aurora's fur. It's just cool. I think I want the wings, but I do want maybe my partner to be like the furry beast. I don't know.
I definitely don't want wings ever. I've never wanted to fly. Never, like, that's like what I've never found that appealing.
You would save so much money though if you could just fly places.
I'd be so scared. No, thank you.
So much time. Ugh.
So yeah. Okay, I think that we're cool. We're cool on like what we thought about Evie and Aurora's relationship, and if they, fit that, moving way too fast situation. I think that it's set up in a really good way. I think it's set up in a way where despite it being a week and being kind of jarred by that at first, I was like, I mean, okay, I get it. Like they literally, Indy agrees. I was like, okay, I get it, because they went through a lot and they know that they have a deadline to like split up, and we know we're not gonna keep it. But yeah, they definitely go through it. That being said, did you guys think that how convinced were you? I mean, I guess we weren't, but like, I kept thinking that like, this is something that you guys can work out. Like, I was like, why does this feel so final? I feel like, I don't know. I feel like that this whole, like, yeah, when I get over there.
I felt like that until Aurora was like, maybe you can come on a little vacation with me, and Evie like shut her down, and then it made like way more sense to me. Like it was like a miscommunication, you know what I mean? Like but after she said that, then I totally got why Aurora was like, well, then this is 100% not going to work if she can't even take a trip to see me. And then Evie was like, well, this is 100% not going to work if she thinks I can just leave my kingdom all willy-nilly. And I'm like, okay, guys, this is like a calendar issue. You just need to find a date that works for both of you. But like
exactly.
But
not everyone
I
can be a project manager though.
Yes. I got how like after that interaction, I believed that they were both truly convinced that the other didn't think it would work. Okay. So like it made sense. It was frustrating because yes, I would have.
Me as an outsider, I was like, yeah, there's definitely like Aurora can wait like a little while longer before.
Yeah.
You guys can like give her a week or two.
But their problem was that they assumed a lot of things. They assumed that the other person understood a lot of things, but then they were both the kind of people who needed things to be spelled out for them, like super clearly. So Evie was like, well, of course Aurora knows that I love her and that I'd want her to stay, blah, blah, blah. And then Aurora was like, well, of course Evie knows that I would like mate her and that I'm not, but like actually neither of them knew that because they were both like idiots.
Yes, you're absolutely correct. I get how that miscommunication happened. And it's funny that you say that there is a miscommunication and they both needed things to be spelled out to them, because I felt like the author was spelling things out for me in their dialogue all the time. And that's one of my biggest critiques, is that the dialogue feels like really blocky and exposition-y a lot of times. And it definitely, that was something else that kind of took me out of it in really tense moments or important moments, because I felt like, why are we going over this again? Like I would look at like how long the quotation would run, and I'm like, no one's talking in complete sentences like this. Like I don't understand why this is. And there were always like info dumps, they were always like info dumping on each other. I don't know how you guys felt about the dialogue, but I definitely felt like it was a little bit blocky and could have been pared down, especially because as the book goes on, like more things are explained. I felt like that style of communication was like it ran through the whole book. The entire time they're always like talking, like, and I get that they're only talking to each other, but like it's always explaining something about the world. I don't know, those parts were boring. I didn't like them. I thought they were boring.
I agree. I definitely think that was why my main critique of the book is that it's too long, because I think if you just took out some of the like in between adventure stuff and you cleaned up some of the dialogue, you would shave like a third of this book out, because a lot of it is repetitive. Even like, I don't think it's only even between the two of them. They would go to talk to other people and it would be like, oh, Aurora, you know that the Sky Wing people have a history of being violent against the ground dirt people. And really, the history of violence is what's affecting the ability to be able to be friends with her. But if you're friends with her, then I guess I can get over the massacre of the Sky Bird people that happened in 1763.
Exactly, that's exactly
where 1,700
like.
of the wolf bears got slaughtered, and then the wolf bears went back and got revenge. And so the Sky Bird people haven't really been respected ever since then. But honestly, Aurora, where did you go? That's what would happen in real life. People would be like,
shut up.
Then the person would come back and be like, I had to pee halfway through you saying that. I'm sorry. What was going on?
Like, I get that it provides like really good context for the story, but it doesn't help anything in the plot. It's for the audience only. And I'm like, it's not necessary. It's cool. Like, leave it.
You just write a companion book that's like the world of Aurora's Angel, and then you take all of that dialogue and you just make little chapters where you explain the history of the Skybird people.
If you want to have a Substack, Miss Noon, of like history of Nordara, I'll subscribe. I'll read that. Okay. So let's see. What else do I got here? Pacing and dialogue. Cool. All right. Now that we kind of talked about the relationship and the dialogue, kind of want to talk a little bit about some heavier stuff. So if anyone's listening, just want to issue a content warning of sexual violence and I guess domestic violence. One of the parts, one of these, like, I have this like book club journal. And one of the parts here, it says, like, what was the most surprising moment to you? And the one that stood out to me, it doesn't have to be your surprising moment, but at least one that I wanted to know how you guys felt about it, was, I guess it's one of those parts where Evie and Aurora are having an argument or are having like a tense conversation. Aurora walks away from Evie or like disappears or whatever, and doesn't like talk to her, and like goes and has dinner and like acts like nothing happened. And Evie takes that really, really personally. So when they meet up again, she slaps Aurora. Like, she slaps her, and it's like a moment that like stuck out to me because it felt very, like, I know that their relationship is supposed to be like, I guess, summer camp vibes, very intense, everything happening very quickly, high tension, high emotions. But I felt like it was a lot. I was like, I don't know that this needed to happen. And I didn't like it. I guess is what I'm trying to say. Dre and I had kind of talked a little bit about it because I was like, I'm having emotions about this. Oh no. But I don't know. I didn't enjoy it, and I wanted to know if you guys felt a type of way about it. It just felt super out of place to me and not nice. And I would have been way madder at Evie. I would have been like, don't fucking put your hands on me unless like you're gonna finger bang me or feel my titties. Don't fucking touch me with violence. Only touch me with love. So that's how I feel about that part. I don't know if you guys felt a type of way about it, or if you had a different scene that surprised you.
I feel like when I got to that part, it definitely felt like it was like pandering to the idea that you need to have some sort of physical situation to add to the drama of a scenario, because I read it and I think I went back and checked in again because it felt really unwarranted. Like, it didn't make any sense to me, because it's not like it was in the middle of an argument and they're having a heated back and forth and then you just like lash out at the person. Like you said, like they had a thing, separated, she's all in her head about it, she comes back to the situation and then like assaults her. It's not like she was reacting to anything. she like assaulted her in that moment, because it's not like that's where it didn't gel with me, because I mean, I'm not pro physical violence in any way unless it's like consented to. But in this situation, I kind of was like, wait, why did she just slap her? Like, I would have slapped her back. At me being someone who is getting attacked, my reaction would have been to hit her back, and then it would have been a whole other situation. But the fact that it almost felt like an effort to make Evie feel more like petulant and more immature almost, because up until then there hasn't really been any flaw to her character. And Aurora is like closed off, she's hiding things, she's got all these secrets, she's got a violent past, so there's lots of things that you could consider like flaws within her as a character that make her someone difficult to be in a relationship with. And with Evie, it's like she's a spoiled, you know, rich girl, but she's not really, because they're painting her out as someone to be like smart and respected among her people. So it's like, okay, is this an effort to give her a character flaw? Like, she is someone who would react physically, because they bring it up before that she's like sassy. Like, she's had instances in her past where she's like, oh, you know, I've gotten into my own fair share of situations. And it's like, okay, but is this that example? And it didn't read as like necessary to the story to me. I wasn't really sure how to react to it, because like, I think obviously my instinct is when men react in that way in stories or movies or whatever, it's like, of course you did this because you're a piece of trash. So here it's kind of like, well, why are you doing this? So yeah, it I wouldn't say like stood out to me, but I remember when I was reading it, I was like, ew, no.
I think I want to add that it just stood out to me because it's one of my like your strikes, you're out type thing, where it's like, you don't get another chance after that for me. Like, if you put your hands on me, it's over. We're done. Like, you don't get to do it again. That's just like how I feel about it. I think this is why it stood out to me, because like at that point I still like really enjoyed them being together, but I did feel like my perception of Evie was like seriously marred after that, even though to like Aurora it wasn't like that big of a deal. Like, it would have been a huge deal to me. I'd have been like, so when you're mad, you're just gonna slap me? And that's just me projecting, you know, onto the book and why it stood out to me. But I just wanted to add that too.
Yeah, so what I think, I had actually a different moment, but before I get to that, so what I had talked with Chris, like my take on it is just that the scene was just there to show that Aurora would never hurt her, because anybody else who puts a hand on Aurora gets like their freaking limbs torn off. So I think it was literally just there to show that like, it doesn't matter what Evie does, Aurora would never hurt her, versus like, if anybody else had done that, they would probably be dead. So like, for me, it was just that plot device to show like, Aurora is a beast and she'll murder anyone who looks at her the wrong way. But because this is her mate, you know, she's able to like not react violently toward her. That's how I saw it. It was just like to show that. But for me, the scene that like, I got to the end of the book and I was like, wait, we're just never gonna talk about it, is for me when Aurora is like teaching Evie to shift faster, and she just like injects her with her magic and doesn't tell her. And so for the entire book, Evie just thinks that she has been taught how to shift and that she can do these things or whatever, and she even tells other people about it. And this entire time, like, the only reason she can do it is because Aurora like basically mind ejaculated magic into like her system. That's what she did. And then they never talk about it again. She never told her the truth. And that like left me shook. I kept thinking it was going to come up and that Evie was going to feel like very violated or something. And then it never came up. And then like, she gets back to her kingdom and everyone's like, oh my God. And Evie's like, yeah, I had the best teacher. And I'm like, oh my God, is this going to be like forever how you see this? And so that for me was that scene, just because I was shook when it happened, and then I was shook that it never got explained or talked about the entire rest of the book.
Yeah, I agree.
That was my scene.
I agree. I thought it was going to be more of a thing too. I thought it was going to be, because then later on,
she didn't tell her the truth.
She never tells her, and like later on, like spoiler alert, when like we find out like Aurora's true lineage, like that's a big fucking deal, because like she's got like Aurora's like super powerful, super like crazy powerful lineage now, like intertwined in her. And so it didn't come up again, and I was like, okay.
Even when like she gets like the little dragon scale necklace, and I'm like, of course you react to the scale because you've got like magic sperm in you now. But like she never, they like never talk about it, and it just stayed with me. It just stayed with me.
Yes. Okay. Well, okay.
I would never have told her if I did that. I would have lied. I interpreted that as like when I was trying to cook something. He's like, try it. And I'm like, yeah, it's good.
Yeah, but she put something in her body. That seems like that's like so permanent, you know. She can't take it back out.
It's fine.
I thought it was gonna. It's probably fine. I guess what I am also shocked at is that they literally never talked about it. She never explains herself, and I'm just like,
yes.
Okay.
What's gonna happen when her sister wants to learn how to shift like that too? Like,
that she's a terrible student. No, she's just never gonna learn. No one else is gonna learn to shift well, and everyone's gonna just be like, wow, Aurora's like got that good that like fixed Evie's ability to transform. That's amazing. That's what some good lesbian loving will do for you.
Oh boy.
And then that's it. And then Evie can fly safely, and Aurora don't gotta tell anybody. I definitely did not react to that as like much as you guys did. I'm like, haha, she could like, that was a quick fix. Cool. That like saved her a year of having to try to practice and like be uncomfortable.
I think it's just like I think it's just like one of my things. Like it terrifies me to not be in control of my body. Like it's why like I don't do drugs. I never get like super drunk. Like that's just like one of my things. And so to think that someone could literally change my body composition without me knowing and never tell me was just like too much.
But now it's easier for her to do the thing. I feel like if anyone else had done anything like it, I would have had a lot more problems with it. But I'm like, oh, now she can transform easier? Okay, cool.
Whatever. Evie slapped Aurora. She doesn't deserve a fucking explanation.
I was like, I'll take the cheat. The easy way out? There's an easy way out? Hell yeah. Put that shit in my eyeball. I don't even care.
But that's the thing. If she had asked her, that would have been totally different. She'd been like, hey, you want some magic? You know, that'd be different.
And then when she finds out about Aurora's ancestry, then it could be like a moment like, holy fucking shit, like I got dragon in me too. What the fuck? You know, that would have tripped me out.
Yeah.
Okay. Another part that surprised, it didn't surprise me, but I was like, necessary? Was when Evie is talking to Aurora's mom. And then Aurora's mom is like, look, like you don't understand what happened to Aurora. And I feel like at this point, it's very clear because it's spoken about a lot, like what the Cutters do to the people that they capture. And I'm reading it and I'm like, it's okay. You don't have to say it. You don't have to, it's okay. I got it. And Aurora's mother is doing like the long exposition paragraph dialogue where she's like, you don't understand what she did. I have to tell you, because if not, then you won't truly understand like the entire context of my traumatized daughter. And Evie's like, okay. And she's like, they raped her. And I'm like, of course, why did we have to make this a whole fucking conversation? First of all, it's not your thing to tell. Even like if like Aurora can't remember it, like who fucking cares? Like that's her thing to process. And she was already extra fucked up and extra traumatized by all of the other things that had happened. So I don't understand why this extra detail needed to be spelled out to Evie and also to the audience. Like we're stupid and we don't fucking know what or don't understand like how traumatized Aurora was up until about her experience with the Cutters and what happened with her father. oh, it was too much. I'm like, okay.
It's also, I agree about all of that, because I feel like a lot of times with these kinds of stories, the reveal of a sexual assault comes in arrives in a place where you're trying to like explain someone's behavior. Like it's always like, oh, they're acting this way because X, or they're acting this way because Y. The fact that Aurora had to watch her dad be like massacred in front of her, and that she was used as bait, and that she was assaulted physically, not before they mentioned anything about sexually assaulting her, the fact that she was like physically abused to lure him in would have been enough to make anyone react in any way similar to the way that Aurora is reacting to things. I was perfectly fine understanding that that was what she was reacting to, and that's why it was her mission to do things without having the sexual assault thing added to it, because it's not like there was nothing to explain why Aurora would be closed off or have these reactions or have like violent nightmares. Like her past already is enough of a support for like whatever it is that's going on. And so it left a bad taste in my mouth, because it's the movie trope of like women have to be assaulted sexually in order to be able to evolve into this like next level survival warrior thing. Like that's what always happens in this specific genre of movies, is like women cannot be strong or cannot be survivors of violence or whatever unless they were also sexually assaulted, and that is the match that lights the transformation.
Yeah.
And we were doing just fine without having that. And so it's upsetting that we have like a story that is solely focused on these women and their relationship and their story and their survival, and it gets boiled down to this was still because a man assaulted a woman, and that is what this is rooted in, and like that wasn't necessary. You could have said this entire story, especially because this is a story written by a woman. Like if men were writing this, of course she was assaulted, and we would have gotten a super graphic scene about it, because we need to know in gory detail the trauma that this woman has like experienced.
Also, for me, it seemed like they made it seem like this, like you said, like this was the worst part of what happened to her, and this is what explains everything. But the reality is that, I mean, not saying that everyone obviously deals with trauma in like different ways. But Aurora clearly had no issues forming relationships or like attaching to people or having sex with them. But she did have a whole bunch of issues related to her father being killed and like her guilt at like not being able to transform and like all these other things that really lets you know that, you know, either she completely disassociated and doesn't remember that part of it, or honestly, it was just not as traumatic a thing for her as like being, as she perceived, guilty for her father's death and then like not loved by her mother, or, you know, that was like a whole big other one. So not saying that that wasn't like a traumatic thing for her, but in the way that it presents in the book, it seems like the other pieces of the trauma played a way bigger role in like the plot and in her development as a character. And you would notice them if like you took them out. Whereas this thing, you know, we know it because she tells us that, but we don't actually see the effects of that play out at any point during the book.
Yeah,
Exactly.
Well said, both of you. I think that, yeah, it didn't have anything. I think that's why it tastes like it was like shitty to read. I was like, why? What is the point of saying this? Like, and more from someone who is like up until this point inconsequential in Aurora's life. You know what I mean? Like, why does this person have to give like Evie this information, which at this point like has no bearing on what we've seen. You're absolutely right, Drea. And I think, yeah, the trauma is like getting kidnapped and like seeing her father die, like cannibalizing her father. You know what I mean?
I think it's just supposed to be like, in case you had any misgivings about Aurora or like the things that she's done, here's like one final thing to like make you
it's a
pity her.
survival milestone, and it sucks.
Yeah,
because I think this book, out of all of the like critiques that we have given it, I think of all of those critiques, this is the one thing that I would absolutely cut out, or I would have it be a much bigger factor in her relationship building with like other people. And yeah, she's like, I don't prefer men, but it's not because of sexual assault. You know what I mean? It's because you're understanding that she's just attracted to women, period.
And it's like, I don't need a sexual assault to indicate to me that Aurora is capable of frail, quote unquote, feminine emotion and like victimhood, you know, like that has nothing to do with what's been going on so far. I've seen her completely formed as like a woman thus far. I totally respect and understand her traumas. I believe she's capable of sympathy and empathy and love. I don't need her to have also then gone through this, because plenty of that happens. We don't need it to be another instance where we're witnessing it in one way or another.
Yeah.
But yeah, I really do think the author just wanted to make sure that when she goes on that rampage to kill this dude and goes like super full beast mode, that you have that in your mind, because like for some reason like that will be more palatable, or like that will be like easier to understand. It's like, oh, she's doing this because he raped her, versus like she's doing this because he formed part of the crew who like tortured me, murdered my father, and that, you know, which is you know what I mean? But I think like that's why it's there. It's to like make that last, because, you know, it is very gruesome, you know. So I think they're just setting that. I think the author was just setting that up. It's like, I want to make super sure that you still ship Aurora and Evie, and you don't see Aurora as a monster kind of thing. But I think you're right. I don't think the book didn't need it.
Yeah, and I think it's because like, oh, this is like dark fantasy, and so we need like these dark elements because it's like I mean, like there's plenty of torture and murder and death throughout the entire book, so it's not like I needed that extra thing. So, whew, okay, I'm taking a breath. Thanks for talking.
From like random people, I still stand by that. Like the death that shook me the most was when Evie's father just like launches his brother over. Like I was just so unexpected.
Stepbrother. It makes it okay.
But you know what I mean? It's like I was so used to Aurora coming in and like murdering everyone that when he did it, I was like, what?
It was good. It was a good scene. I enjoyed that. All right. So that was a really heavy subject. I want to end our discussion with a lighter question, or I don't know. It might also be contentious. You let me know. I want to know what you thought of the rat bird pet.
I loved him. He's like my dog.
The rat bird pet Aurora has like trained. I don't know what the heck the name of the thing is. What's it called? I called it rat bird the entire
I loved
book.
him.
Wasn't it like leopard something? Oh my god, not razor or raven. It had some sort of like bird name to it.
I loved him. I will never speak ill of him. When he came in and begged for forgiveness, my heart just melted in a little puddle.
It just seems like a very dangerous creature to have. And then
these things can be worked out. As someone who has a very dangerous little dog, you know, you can learn to work with the aggression. You can learn to transition people in while letting your little creature know that he is still your number one and above everyone else.
Of course you'd say that.
I saw it as like the bird puppet scene in Labyrinth. I'm like, I guess this is happening. Except it was less traumatizing than that one. But I'm like,
dude, he attacked Evie.
No, he went to sniff her and stuff, and she reacted and hit him, and then he wanted to kill her because she hit him first.
Dangerous. I knew this was going to be an argument. It's so distressing when like your partner has a vicious creature as a pet that they love, and you're just like have to deal with it. You know what I mean? You're just like, Okay, well, as someone who has a kind and loving, beautiful Porpy as a pet, that no one of my partners will ever gonna have to worry about. I'm just like, this is why.
Okay,
But I also thought it was really funny.
But be honest, over the course of the year that you lived with me and became acquainted with my vicious little pet, did you not come to love him and appreciate his fierce loyalty towards me?
I guess I do love Indy. I love Indy. I care for him. I don't understand it. You know what I mean? Like I respect and I get it. I just
it's
don't
been
understand.
11 long years of aggression. He's been like this since he was born. There's no reason for it.
Okay. Well, if you guys don't have any more kind of like anything else that you want to bring up, like if you had a favorite character or a surprising moment, another quote that I like, a quote that I like is that first of all, Aurora's mom left them a really like a note that made me laugh my ass off, where she's like, "Oh hey, I see you're banging my daughter. Just know that if you hurt her, I will rip your wings off," or something. I'm like, holy fucking shit. So intense. And then but yeah, my favorite character was, I forget their name, the person that has the business, right when they get to the end of the story, that they have like the business,
the one that gets
or whatever.
the jewelry made and stuff.
The inventor lady?
Yeah, the inventor lady.
That's a Christina character.
I love that. I love that person. I know that if Emily Noon writes like a book, another book in this world, which I mean, I think she's planning on it. I read on her blog that she was like, let's see, it says here, she basically says that she was really nervous about writing Aurora's Angel, and that, you know, she had a sequel in mind, but she wanted to make this like a contained story just in case it didn't work out. But now that it did, you know, there's a couple of more stories that she wants to tell, and I'm just hoping this lady's in all of them, because I loved her entire everything. It was a good character, and I was sad that she'd only come in just at the end, and you know that we didn't get to spend like a ton of time with her. But I love.
You know what? I would 100% read the prequel of how the mom and the dad got together, because their story sounded so like passionate and romantic, and like I want that story.
What other story? Maybe something in the wolf colony. Also, maybe something like that too. I would be interested in reading. I mean, I'll probably check it out. Hopefully, it'll be on my radar. I follow Emily Noon.
Or she could go with the avian cousin, who was like one of the bad guys, but like
Raven.
Yeah,
the Raven.
Raven was very much Sailor Mars energy of like.
Because I feel like sometimes authors do that, you know, it's like the kind of unlikable character, you know, and then they make like the redeeming story.
Yeah, I'm down. So I would definitely recommend this to someone who's looking for a fantasy romance. I would definitely give them a content warning. And yeah, I enjoyed reading this and talking about it with you guys. Okay. So that is our discussion of Aurora's Angel by Emily Noon. I hope you pick up a copy and give it a chance. And we'll see you guys in the next hangout, whenever that may be. Bye.
Thank you for hanging out with us. You can support Only Lovers Book Club by dropping some change in our tip jar and buying some books with our bookshop link. You can find us on Instagram at Only Lovers Book Club, and from there, find our individual accounts and projects. Feel free to favorite or rate us if that's an option for you, but always make sure to like and subscribe and turn on your notifications so you never miss an episode.